we are going to be talking about, I don't know what we're talking about. I need to practice my webinar. How do I record it? Manage recording. No captions. Cool. Start recording. Start. Cool. I'm recording, I think. Okay, now let me see if I can share my screen. Right, inclusive. Share. Woohoo. Okay. Let's do this. Let me do slideshow. Yay. Okay. Why does it show two people? Me and my screen. Okay. I'm live. Okay. Okay, so this is more like a practice because it's 8:30 right now and I'm about to do this live as like a webinar for some people at 10. So it needs to be about like 40 minutes of talking. So I'm going to time myself, see if I can get it to like 40 minutes-ish. At least I can understand a better pace of myself. Is it ridiculous that I'm doing this like an hour and a half before the actual event? Yes, it is. Thank you for asking. Presentation audio. Okay, so we got that. We good. Killing it. Let me start my little timer. Let's do. Well, I did 41 minutes. 41 minutes. Okay, that's good for us to try. Oh, hello, friends. How do I see who's even in here? Can I see? Will it show me? No, I don't know. I don't know how to do this. Okay. So, I'm giving a presentation today about being fat on the internet. So, a little bit about me. I am a mental health activist, content creator, entrepreneur. But before that, I've been living in a larger body my entire life. It's like even when I was really little, my earliest memories are like being in a fat body and hating it, thinking it was my fault. I was also undiagnosed neurodivergent, which I mean, I know now that I'm neurodivergent, but back then I was undiagnosed with ADHD, so undiagnosed, untreated. I was raised by a fatphobic family, so I really had a lot of internal beliefs that my body was bad, my body was my fault, that really stuck with me my entire life. And honestly, that is just the recipe for burnout, and it leads into later. I feel like I'm rambling. This is not good. And it just like leads, I don't know, it just did not like set me up for success. But now, thankfully, I like now at this time, do I say about my degree? Recipe for burnout, especially like when I went to university, I got a Bachelor of Science in psychology, but it was like a really brutal time. And now I'm graduated, done with all that, trying to find my own path in life, and I own too many businesses. My partner and I own a drywall company, which feels very random, I know, and I am working on launching my plus size clothing brand soon that is also like sensory friendly, as well as I want to build a mental health platform that helps to connect people to the mental health services that they need and deserve. I should move this here so you can see me. There we go. I also share too much on the internet, which we will talk about. And I'm honestly just still figuring all of it out. And I think that's okay. I think it's something that we don't really acknowledge or talk about much, that we don't all have it figured out, but I definitely do not. Okay. So how did this whole thing start for me of being a content creator, doing this kind of work? Well, I went, as I said before, as I said before, I was living with undiagnosed and untreated ADHD and other mental illnesses like honestly anxiety, depression, OCD, OCPD, and atypical anorexia. So I was really struggling, really trying to like overcompensate with like through schooling, trying to like do really, really well, working way too hard, but also having a really hard time just to like keep up with everything. So still undiagnosed, still untreated, brutal time in university. I mean, all my schooling was really brutal, but university, especially at this point about 2018, I was like hitting a wall. I was not okay, really trying to just get help and the support that I needed. So I went to the university's mental health services to be like, hey, and it's like the counseling and clinical services. And I was turned away because they were completely full. And they just said, oh, just keep calling back, just keep calling back. I called back every single day for a week and they were still full. They were still full. They just kept turning me away. And I was so frustrated that the university kept preaching, like, yeah, your mental health matters. We care about your mental health. And then when I actually tried to get help or access services or even access accommodations, it was really, really difficult. So I was mad and I went straight to the office of the dean of students and I booked an appointment with the dean of health and wellness because I was like, I'm mad. I need to talk to someone about it. And I vented to social media. I mean, I used Instagram like recreationally, I could say, like as everyone did. And this screenshot on the screen here says, I'm about to have a meeting with the Dean of Health and Wellness, mildly nervous. That is a screenshot from my Instagram story that day. And that is the very first time I spoke up about my mental health publicly on social media. And it was really, really interesting because I was just sharing from frustration, but I got messages back about people being like, oh my gosh, like I have anxiety too, and I never told anyone. Or, yeah, I've had depression my whole life, but I'm ashamed to talk about it. Like all these things. I was like, whoa, like people I've even known for years telling me these things, opening up to me. And I was like, well, okay, this is huge. Like, I didn't know any of these things about other people, but they're saying that they feel like good and validated by me, like speaking up and talking about what I'm going through. And this was even just like the smallest thing. So that really motivated me to just continue speaking up, talking about my lived experience, sharing it with others. Cause I thought, okay, if I can't access services or it's so hard to get help, what can I do myself to help people? And I just thought, yeah, sharing my story, being able to validate people so they know that they are not alone in their struggles. Yeah, I thought that was a big thing. So then that's led to this. I started talking about things like anxiety and mental illness on social media because that's something I was just struggling with so much. I still wasn't receiving the help that, I deserved. And it feels good to put a name on what's been going on. It's a lot of things going on at one time with ADHD. Yeah, ADHD is brutal. Honestly, I can't stand it, but that's a whole nother ADHD is a whole nother thing. But so I first started talking about like my anxiety, mental illness, mental health, how brutal school was, just all the things that I was feeling because I felt so isolated in that experience. I felt that especially being on campus, you see all these students, everyone doing their thing, and I'm like, am I the only one who can't do this? Am I the only one who is struggling so hard just to like get through the day, just trying to get through each class? It was, yeah, it was hard. So I started doing that and, spending more time on social media, engaging more with accounts. I started learning more about diet culture and anti-fatness, such as from accounts like iWeigh, which it's not so much like fat liberation, but it's kind of just like the starting point for me to understand that like things like stretch marks aren't bad or neither is cellulite. Like these things are natural parts of your body, and starting to see some of the toxic ways that media talks about bodies and everything. And then I also went to a panel one day, and my a woman was speaking on this panel talking about like diet culture and just was very like weight inclusive in the way that she was speaking. And so I went up to her after and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I loved what you said. Are you taking clients?" And she's like, "Yeah." And so she's my dietitian, and she's been my dietitian since I think this was, yeah, 2018 or 2019. I've been with her ever since, which is amazing. And so then with her, I started to unpack like my own, you know, like internalized fat phobia and diet culture and all these things that were just so normal to me that I never really understood to be wrong or harmful. So then after I started to like understand these things better, I started incorporating that into my online content as well with mental health. So even things like these are images from 2018, which I feel so embarrassed looking at them now because it's not my style of content anymore. But like posing versus not posing. And you can see how drastically it is, like how desirable you may look in one image, but that doesn't actually reflect like what your body really looks like, or bodies can look like multiple different things depending on how you're standing or depending on what you're doing. Same with like the worthy, still worthy on this side. Like I'm standing up, my stomach looks flat-ish. I'm worthy, and when I sit down and I have rolls coming over my pants or my stomach's big, like I'm still worthy. It's like your worth doesn't change depending on your body, was kind of like the messaging I was trying to do. And I really just wanted to, finding my voice. I really wanted to be heard and try to make a difference because I personally felt so alone in all of this that I think it's like I wanted to help other people, but it's like I wanted to be the person that I needed. Like, I wish I had someone saying these things. I wish I had this kind of representation, maybe growing up or even at that time, like telling me that everything's going to be okay, telling me that my body's okay, all of those things. So it's like, okay, if I can be that for someone else, I kind of felt like, well, maybe my struggles aren't pointless. Maybe I can help other people through my experiences, and it kind of gives me a sense of purpose at the same time. Otherwise, it feels like it can be really like depressing and feel hopeless of like what you're going through, what you're experiencing. So it's like, okay, if I can repackage this, turn it into something meaningful and positive, could that help even me get through what I'm going through? Um, so even doing all this, I was trying to do everything right, but still, not really being heard online. Like I wasn't really breaking barriers. It's like only people like my friends from high school or my family were the only people seeing my content, which is like, okay, great, but how do I actually get these messages out there? How do we actually impact more people? How do we actually make a difference? It just felt like it wasn't big enough. It wasn't, I just wanted everyone to feel, I wanted everyone to know this. I wanted everyone to just not hate their bodies anymore. And so I tried to do everything right by the algorithm, you know, posting at the right time, using the right hashtags, using all the things that you're supposed to do. I did them. And it was frustrating because I saw that when like a thin white woman would post, let's say maybe the same thing of like them posing in a thin body and then them like bending over and like grabbing a piece of their skin. Can't even do it. To be like, your body matters too. And then like saying the same messages, but then they were getting millions of likes and followers. And while the people actually living in fat bodies, actually, having to face like fat phobia every day, weren't being heard, the voices weren't being amplified. And it was super frustrating. which led me into this, like, is body positivity reserved for fat and marginalized bodies, or can thin people also join in? And this led to the year I went viral on the internet, 2020. And it was just me expressing these frustrations. I had 9,000 followers, which is a lot to some, but not a lot compared to the type of impact you might be able to make online. And so I was just venting to my only people that were watching my only people that were watching me. It was like, yeah, friends, family, nothing crazy. And so I just posted this random post expressing my frustrations, and it accidentally went viral. So I wanted to go through that with you just so you can kind of get a sense of like how this like projected me or how this changed things for me, and then like where we kind of went from there. So let's go through it. So it says, I'm sorry, but I have to say it. It really bugs me that thin people are taking up a lot of space in the body positivity slash self-love corner of the internet. I know I'm gonna get backlash for this, but it's honestly a major thing for plus size creators. A lot of people in smaller bodies are creating content about loving the parts of your body that are deemed bad by society. Is there anything wrong with that? Not at all. Self-love for everyone. A lot of these people make big money and have great success creating this content, which is also great. Yay for them. The problem for me is that I've noticed for myself, as well as many other plus size creators in the same corner of the internet, is that we don't get half the recognition that slender people do. I find that most slender content creators who promote body acceptance have to distort their body in order to show off their imperfections. Everyone is allowed to be self-conscious or have problems loving parts of their body. Everyone. But unlike these influencers, I think I used influencers because I didn't really understand. Even that term feels very like stigmatized, like, oh, influencers. Um, so unlike them, I can't just put away my problem areas and continue on in the world. I don't have the luxury of standing up straight or pulling on my pants and then suddenly perfectly fit society's ideal beauty standard. Unlike them, I don't have thin privilege. I can't take out my fatness when it's convenient or advantageous for me and live the rest of my day without scrutiny or being shamed. And yet, these accounts have hundreds of thousands of followers, even millions. People love these accounts. It allows them to feel good about themselves without having to confront their internalized fat phobia. I could post the same photo and not get any engagement from it. And why is that? Because people inherently believe that my body is bad, whether consciously or not. Also, a side note that the fact that people don't see your photos to begin with is like an algorithm platform issue. It's not so much like people are choosing to not see your photos. They might not like it or engage with it in the same manner because of these things, but after this I really learned that they don't even see it to begin with. It doesn't even pop up on their page at all because of platform issues, which we will get to. So, continuing. It is so damn hard. I would love to be able to support myself by doing what I love and help people through social media. The problem is that my body isn't as palatable. But instead, it's these slender influencers that are making big bucks from brand deals, creating their own fashion lines, receiving massive opportunities. Oh, thank you. You need to lose weight immediately. Thank you, troll. Instead of those living in more marginalized bodies who are portraying the same message. Want to use your slender body to promote self-love? Terrific, but also feature marginalized bodies on your account as well. Be vocal. Tell your fave influencer that it's time to pass the damn mic. Making a purchase through an influencer, stop and check to see if the brand has inclusive sizing. Hint, XL is not inclusive. Diversify your feed. We don't have to follow only slender white women. So that's the end of that viral post, which I know is a lot. And the thing is, like, this wasn't something I thought about for weeks and carefully created. Like, I was just in my Instagram stories, just venting. And then I was like, okay, I'll post it to my feed. And it blew up. Like, it was such an accident. So I'm like, I got so much hate. I got a lot of love, and I got a lot of people that could relate to this were like, oh my gosh, like, thank you for saying that. I've been thinking this forever. But most of the people who did not relate to it, did not like it, were extremely offended, thinking that I was like gatekeeping the body positivity community, which turned into discussing how, oh, I lost my thought because I was reading like ick comments. Don't sit and go on talking. Wow, people are just horrible. I'll talk about trolls soon, so this is interesting for me. I can talk about the trolls and how you have nothing better to do than try to put other people down because you feel bad about yourself for some way. And I don't know you, so it's okay. I release the shit that you're saying. I don't even know where I was. What's my next slide? Okay, so went viral. I went from like 9,000 followers to like 25,000 followers overnight. So, which was a huge jump for me. I had thousands of people messaging me, commenting, sending me messages. It was extremely overwhelming. I cried a lot. It was hard. And I am grateful for this moment because it allowed my voice to be heard what felt like for the first time. And even though my voice was being heard, I still know what it feels like to not have your voice heard, to feel like you're screaming into the abyss of what is the internet. And I wanted to make sure that we are still, it's not just my voice anymore. Like, okay, I'm speaking, and how can we continue to amplify other voices that are still not being heard? So, a big thing is I had a lot of thin white women upset, especially even influencers that I mentioned in the post, which was awkward at first, but some of them were really awesome and wanted to listen and do better. Some of them really doubled down and continued to center themselves and their own experiences. It was really interesting having these conversations because it's not about like, no, you can't be here, you can't do this. It's saying like, when you have a huge platform, I personally believe that also comes with a responsibility to do good, because it's not an equal opportunity. It's not, someone, one of those influencers even said like anyone can just pick up an iPhone and film. Like, I don't have any privilege. I don't have any privilege someone else doesn't have. I'm like, that's not true. That is not true, because it is, the more marginalizations you have, the harder it is to be seen online. So when you are like a thin white woman and you perfectly fit like Western ideal beauty standards, it's a lot easier for your account to grow, for you to have your voice heard, for you to be visible. So you need to use those privileges to help people who can't just be heard from being pretty or being thin. It's like, yes, you can talk about your own experiences. Like, even thin people have their own body image issues, of course. And it's not trying to negate that. It's saying, yes, talk about that, share your experience, and talk about how it stems from fat phobia. Talk about your privileges, that you can pull up your pants, hide your stomach, and the world still treats you really well, and you're not facing fat phobia or body shaming like every single day like other people are. Just recognizing that your experience is not the only experience. So one of the influencers, the Bird's Papaya, her name is Sarah, very kind. She was lovely and wanted to like learn and do better, and she actually invited me to go onto her podcast. So this is episode 51, the one about thin privilege and body positivity with Rafaela Mancuso. I don't even use the term body positivity for myself because it's more of like a political movement. It's for about people accessing rights, people having the right to healthcare, the right to respect, people being treated like a human being, no matter what their body size is. It's not so much about like, oh, body positivity, I love my cellulite. Like, it's awesome that we can like destigmatize things like cellulite and stretch marks. That's amazing. But that's only helping like the smallest people at the top. It's not really changing the whole narrative as a whole. And that's what I was really emphasizing and wanting to talk about at this time, is like, yes, we can all post the pretty pictures and love yourself, thumbs up. But are we really making a difference? Are we helping the people that need the help the most? So I just thought about the plate analogy. as I'll say. So if you have a stack of plates like this one here, and you're just focusing on the issues that only affect you. So for you, if it's like your stomach after having a baby, or your stretch marks or cellulite, but you still live in a very privileged body, it's like lifting up the top plate and being like, see, I'm doing something. I'm lifting up the top plate. Can't you see? I'm like, yeah, that is doing something. That's awesome. But if you go down to the bottom, where the people that are the most marginalized, facing the most barriers and discrimination and oppression, if you lift up the bottom plate, it's going to lift everyone up together. So instead of just focusing on ourselves, our own lived experiences, plate on the top, who is the most marginalized person in the room? Who is facing the most discrimination or oppression based on their body size, their appearance, their abilities? If we focus on tackling the roots of fat phobia, um, such as like anti-blackness, we focus on the fattest bodies in the room, we focus on fat black people, disabled people, queer bodies, like all these different things. If we focus on the most marginalized and lift it all up, yes, it's going to be heavier, it's going to be more work, it's going to take more effort. But then we all lift up together. It lifts up the plates on the top too. I think that was really the message I was trying to get across, is like there's only a few people at the top who have the platforms. If they're only picking up their plates, like we're not doing it, we think we're like saving the world, but we're just helping ourselves and the very few people who also align with that, which is other thin, white, able-bodied cis women. Sorry. So this leads me into diversifying your feeds, because something with the algorithm is that you can't see anything else. People say like, well, I don't purposefully only follow like thin white women, like it's just what pops up. Absolutely, that's exactly how social media works. You are shown something and you engage with it, you like it, you comment on it, so then it keeps showing you that thing. So you're not going to magically see something outside of that. You have to go out of your way, search for that, and engage with that in order to change what you're seeing. Because just like anything we consume in life, if we're constantly seeing something on our social medias, we assume that it's normal. We assume that that's all that there is. If we're seeing these thin white women and their bodies and talking about cellulite, okay, great. As I said, like it's really great that at least we're talking about things with our body and body image, but it cannot stop there. So it would be taking a look at your feed when you're scrolling. What are you actually seeing? Like, how many black content creators do you follow? How many fat black content creators do you follow? These are things that you need to think about and change. So it's going against the algorithm. So here I have some really amazing creators that I'll talk about, like fat phobia, or just are living in fatter bodies. And the thing is, the more you follow different people of different bodies, it helps you change your mindset. When all you see is like thin white women, you think, well, that's the beauty standard. Yes, they can love their cellulite or something, but they're still perfect. They're still ideal. They're still like models. So how is that really shifting the narrative of what beauty really is, of what the ideal body type really is, and that like there shouldn't be an ideal body type? So yes, please go out of your way, whether it's these creators or I don't know, just continue to engage. So if you're looking at creators like these ones here, then go to see who they're following and see um what content they're engaging in. It'll just help you build up a system of diversifying what you're seeing, so you can have a better understanding of other people's lived experiences. And also your like unconscious biases will change when you start to see all different body types and all different skin colors, all different shapes and sizes. It gives you a better understanding of like, oh my gosh, they're all so beautiful and they all look so different and everyone's beautiful and amazing, and I feel by engaging in that, it helps you rewire your own body image issues rather than taking it from people who already perfectly fit the ideal beauty standard. Instagram and body image. So I think we know how harmful Instagram can be on our body image. Um, when you have things like Photoshop and Facetune and filters and people trying to take pictures from like the perfect angles, and we compare ourselves to other people online because just like I was saying, like if that's all we see, we think that that's normal. We think that that is the standard that we need to live up to. But for me, it's helped me so much with my body image is being on Instagram specifically, which feels wrong. Like most people would say like, "Oh, like Instagram is so bad for your mental health, for your body image." And I think it depends. I think it depends how you use it. So for me, I've never seen bodies like mine, fat bodies, curvy bodies, whatever, in traditional media. So being able to go on social media and seeing fat bodies, plus size bodies who were like beautiful and living their lives, it was amazing. I was like, oh, my whole life, I always told myself that I have to be thin in order to start living my life, in order to do the things I want to do. But now I'm seeing all these amazing people who are fat, who look amazing, who have cute clothing, who are successful in their spaces. Maybe I can change that perception of myself. Maybe I can also be that. Maybe I can be loved and be happy like just the way I am. And something that changed me is Tess Holiday. This is the image of her, of Tess Holiday. And I saw her and I was like, oh my gosh, she's beautiful. She's a model. She was on like Cosmo cover, like doing her thing. And I seriously, genuinely was like, she is so gorgeous. So why can I see her, see she is so beautiful. She's amazing. I would never think anything ill of her. So why am I thinking it about myself? Why am I telling myself that I can't do these things, that I'm not beautiful, that my body's bad? And then the one thing that I don't love in the scenario is even I was like, oh, like I think she's amazing and she's in a larger body than I am. So why am I worried about myself? If she's even larger than me and she's successful, she's beautiful, she looks happy, well, then I should be fine, right? Then I'm good. And that's really taken me a second to realize or to understand that of like, okay, I think it's great to see more representation of different body types. And while recognizing that fat people do not exist to make you feel better about yourself, Tess Holiday does not exist for thinner people to say, oh my God, like she's huge and beautiful, so I'm fine because I'm not that big, so I must be fine. It's not something to compare ourselves to, of like, oh, as long as I'm not that big, then I must be okay. Like, that's not cool at all. And that's something that came from like my own internalized fat phobia of comparing body size and seeing like, oh, I must be okay because I'm smaller. But even beyond that, this was just such a huge standing point for me of seeing so many different bodies and genuinely believing they're beautiful, and even beyond beauty, that there was so many people in different bodies. I'm not the only one living like this. Also, taking self-portraits really helped me. Just being on Instagram, being more active and posting more, I started taking like photos of myself and playing around with them. And yes, you can get like validation about like people commenting or liking on it, but for me it was like I've always been so scared to be seen, to take up space. So to be able to play around with photography and um see yourself as art, see yourself as something beautiful perhaps, and then posting it. I mean, you do not have to post it. I think even just doing this exercise in itself of self-portraits or playing around with photos of yourself can be healing in a way. And yes, it's nice to get that validation from other people, or even when I post it and people say, "Oh my gosh, like my body looks like yours and I think you're beautiful, so maybe I can start loving myself too." That was a really, really big thing for me to like continue to post, continue to show up. It's like, "Oh, okay, like I don't have like an hourglass figure. I have like I don't know what to call me. I'm just like Raffaella shaped is what I say." People are like, "Oh, are you apple shaped, pear shaped?" I'm like, "I'm just Raffaella shaped. I don't know how to describe it." Um, but yeah, like I have a large stomach, which isn't, part of the ideal beauty even for plus size people. And so it's like if people can see that there's someone else who also has a big stomach, who also has big thighs, who also has a chubby face, and they could think better of me than they think of themselves, maybe can start to like break down those barriers of like, why do you think that about yourself? Why do you think that these things are bad? So that was also huge for me. And now we get into the bad part of social media, the trolls. Every single day I get trolls. It stops sometimes, but when I went viral, that was a really hard thing 'cause I got a lot of trolls. I had people making, like, YouTube videos about me, about how horrible I am, how fat I am, all these really horrible things, and, I won't say it didn't affect me because it does, and I don't think you can tell people to not let it affect you because how? Like, how could you read these things and be like, "This is fine. I'm fine with people thinking this about me or saying these words to me." It definitely does affect me, and when I get a lot of this messaging, I mean, I have a lot of things to try to, like, limit their visibility, but I know that I have to go through some of this shit in order to reach the people who need my post, who need my content, who need to be seen, or who need to be able to see themselves in someone else. So, I find that this is especially worse if I'm talking up about fat phobia, about body image, about fatness, about diet culture. That's when this stuff really happens. And I think even without knowing, I started to back up and be a little bit more palatable over the years. Like since 2020, I mean, it's 2024 now. I'm like, oh, here's my vacation. Here's my dog. Like, I've started to create content that's a little bit lighter because sometimes facing this stuff can be so hard when I'm already trying to like survive in life. It's like, how can I continue doing my life, living with mental illness and neurodivergence and still facing fat phobia and deal with people on the internet like harassing me? It's hard. So the troll comments, even though like I can logically say like they don't matter, they don't know you, they're just stupid, they're just, they feel worse about themselves and so they're projecting it on you. It still impacts my body image and the subtle messaging that's in my head, and it does make it harder to eat. Like, I already struggle with eating. I have been, diagnosed with, like, atypical anorexia in the past, and, ADHD makes it really hard for me to nourish myself. And then when you log on your phone and you see all these people telling you to stop eating, that you yeah, just, like, really horrible things, that I'd be fine if I starved myself, and it's just, like, when you already struggle with it and then you have people in the real world, like, validating those negative thoughts and emotions, how do you push through it? It makes it so much harder to say, "Yeah, I am gonna feed myself," 'cause it's like my brain's already telling me hard things, and then externally I'm hearing the hard things. It's just like, how so it's tough. It's tough. So, things that you can do to help yourself, your clients, is to be louder than the trolls. Like, for me, it's checking in with my dietitian. I don't wanna show her the troll comments because I feel like it'll just make her sad, but it's me checking with her, like, "Okay, they don't matter, like, let's confirm diet culture is bad, this it's their internalized fat phobia." It's, kind of really unpacking, like, "Okay, I need to feed myself no matter what, these people don't know me, they're just projecting." Again, don't tell people to just ignore it because sometimes it's impossible. Because another thing is, like, you don't know if it's a mean comment until you read it. And I get a lot of good comments too. I don't want to say I don't, but you have to read them first and be like, oh, that's a bad comment, block. So even when I try to like ignore it, not read it at all, or sometimes if I read a little bit, I'm like, oh, these people are so stupid. It's still in me. It's still another piece of information that agrees with that part of my brain. You know, it's that negative part of my brain being like, aha, here's the evidence. Like, they're right. I'm going to collect these pieces because this is the outside world telling you that your inner thoughts are true and that you are bad and that your body's bad. Um, but Instagram settings is something I use a lot because I know it's so harmful, all of this stuff. So you can go on Instagram, there's a thing called hidden words. I type in every single mean thing I can think of, and it blocks those words or phrases. So if someone comments that on your post, it just won't post at all. So some people have to be really creative in their harassment in order for their comment to actually show up, which is like impressive in one regard. But at the same time, yeah, so that really helps me is like putting those things in place. As soon as something comes up, don't even engage with, I mean, it's up to you. At the beginning, I used to engage with them and try to convince them why they're wrong or why that rhetoric is really harmful. But I've learned that my energy and my peace is more important than trying to educate people who do not want to learn, who do not want to listen. So block, delete, block, delete, block, delete, block. Even right now, there's a few posts that have really hit the fat phobia train. So whenever I see a notification pop up for those posts, I don't even read them. I just delete. I just delete them. If they're good, they're bad. It doesn't matter. I don't read them. I just delete them. Just to try to protect myself and my mental health. And speaking of mental health, I always love like taking a break from mental health to focus on my social media. Um, Social media has both hurt and helped my mental health, and it depends on what's happening. So it's a highlight reel, and sometimes I forget that, and I need to remind myself that people are posting their successes. They're posting their cute outfits, they're posting that trip they went on. They're not posting about when they're feeling really ugly. They're not posting about when they're just laying on the couch watching Netflix. They're not posting about being rejected for things. So then you don't see them, and because you don't see them, we think that they don't exist. We only see the good stuff that people are posting, and then we think, well, that's their whole life. They're amazing. That's what they're all doing. But it's not true. And all content is curated, even the real one. So even for me, let's say if I'm having a really hard time, if I'm having a really anxious day and I want to talk about, I'm like, oh, I'm just having such an anxious day. I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that. I feel so horrible. I am still making that decision to pick up my phone and speak. I'm still deciding what content I'm wanting to share and which ones I'm not. There's been times, like there's been really low times I've picked up my phone and shared and even crying or, having an anxiety attack, but it's still curious, it's still under my control. And I think we need to know that. So even when people are being real, it's still curated, still a snapshot of their life. Unless they have a live camera all the time, we do not see their full lives. And therefore, it's impossible for us to compare ourselves. And I think we naturally do compare ourselves like, oh, they're so this or they're so that. And I wish I was more like them. And we can't do that because we don't know the whole story. We don't know their whole lives. And even if we did, we shouldn't be comparing ourselves. And I don't think saying we shouldn't do it is helpful, but understanding that everyone's journey is so, so different. You're only seeing the smallest slice of it. And yeah, don't compare your whole complex life to someone's highlight reel. It's not going to end good. People aren't posting the everyone posts the best photo too. Also, yeah, if I take a bunch of photos, I'm scrolling through them, I'm going to pick my favorite one and post it. I'm not posting the 10 ones that are kind of ugly. Sometimes I do because I think they're funny and I think it helps show people like we don't look good all the time. Like when you take a bunch of pictures and your face is kind of messed up or yeah, showing like we're all posting like from the best angle, from our favorite shot. And then when you see that, you're like, oh my gosh, everyone's so perfect. No, it's just like the one picture out of like 100 that we took. And connection, the thing that I love about social media more than anything is the connection. Finding a sense of community, whether it's with like other fat people, other neurodivergent people, other mentally ill people, any of those intersections or all of them, it's not something that I've really found in my in-person life with my in-person friends and family. So to be able to find those people who just like understand, you don't have to like explain yourself to, you don't have to try to rationalize things or make or apologize for yourself. People that when I say things like I cannot shower, I'm having such a low time, that the idea of showering feels so horrible that I just can't do it. And there's gonna be people who are like, "Yep, I totally get it. I hate that. Like, you're not lazy. Like, I understand you." Versus saying that to like my family, they'd be like, "What do you mean? Just go get up, go do it." You know? So not just in that having like an echo chamber of you're only around your own experiences, but I've just had so much validation online of other people's experiences. I'm like, oh, I'm not alone in this. This isn't my fault for the feeling this. Like a lot of people that have ADHD hold so much shame for so many things. And knowing that I'm not alone in that helps me to release some of it. It's like, okay, I'm not the one carrying all of this. It's been pushed on all of us. So how do we collectively like let it go? And so I even added some comments below of some people being so kind and, showing how they really sometimes see themselves in what I post. And that's so meaningful to me, whether it's me seeing what someone else posts or even when I post something and people say, oh my gosh, like I could have written this myself. Like I feel exactly the same way. Like, thank you for speaking up about it. I thought I was alone in it. Like that is so meaningful to me because they feel less alone. I feel less alone. And it also helps to like reduce the stigma surrounding so many of these things. So, what now? Don't villainize social media, please. I hate when people say, like, oh, social media is evil and it's ruining mental health and body image. It's a tool, and we get to decide how we want to use it. So, it's about more educating ourselves and others on how to use it properly. If you have something to say, speak up. If you have a platform, speak up. Even if you don't have a huge platform, something I've learned, because at first I was like, I need to have a huge platform so I can say things and I can help a lot of people. But I've also learned that even if one person, two people hear what you have to say and it helps them feel validated and less alone, then your job is done. Then it's successful. So if you have the desire to speak up about anything, about your work, about your weight inclusive services, diet culture, speak up because there's always someone that needs to hear it. Take control of what content you consume. If you're following someone or something pops up in your feed and makes you feel icky, block, delete and block. Like I don't follow the Kardashians. I'm curious what they're doing, but every time I see something, I'm jealous. I'm like, "Oh, look at their body. Oh, look at what they have. Look at their amazing life." I've not followed them for years because I know it does not make me feel good in general or about myself. Gone. You don't need that. You don't need to follow them. You don't need to know what they're up to. If it feels bad, unfollow. Diet culture ads, block it. If ads are popping up about weight loss or diet culture or anything, you can go to like the three dots above it and say hide ad or block ad or report ad. Get it away from you. Tell the algorithm to leave you alone. That's not what you want. And help your clients feel empowered through social media. Talking to them about how you can see yourself or find in the communities that empower you, being able to see yourself in others, being able to share your experiences, and also if they're really struggling with their body image, okay, unfollow all the people that make you feel bad about your body image and start following people of all different body shapes and sizes so you can see there is not one set beauty standard to follow. Um, I think social media it's complex and complicated, but by taking control over this, better understanding that we do have some sort of control over what we see and how we want to engage in these platforms and what we want to use them for, It helps us take back our power and I don't know what to say about that. Helps us take back our power and it helps us to feel more empowered. Social media to me is empowering. It feels connection. It allows me to be vulnerable and express that in a safe place because I've created a safe place for myself. I think that's the difference is social media isn't inherently safe and good, but we can make it that way as we're mindful and it's something we care about. Questions: free Palestine, free Sudan, free the Congo, free Haiti. That's it. That was like 45 minutes, I think. It wasn't so smooth. I'm glad I ran through it once. It's 9:30. I'm gonna do this in 15 minutes. How do I stop sharing my screen? Stop presenting. 9:30. Does it tell me how long this was? 51 minutes? Oh, that might be okay. I was worried about it not being long enough. I was worried about like, oh, what if I say something and I just talk for like 15 minutes and I'm like, it's done. So that's good that that hit me. That hit like 40, 50 minutes. I'm worried about like stumbling over my words. There were some points where I felt like I was just like mumbling, jumbling. I'm nervous. Okay, I'm gonna go take a break. I'm gonna go have a snack, take a deep breath, and then come back and do this whole thing. Thank you for